because them Dune fans came for me. And they were like, "You're gay," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." First off, y'all need better insults. Yes, we know that. Moving on now. Anything else?
Bro, you're like Cartman in that Yelp episode of South Park.
Oh,
Yeah, we're just gonna start this shit live.
The only time I caught the Holy Ghost was when I was in church drinking.
Like they're two dumb dudes. Welcome to the latest episode of Sarat and Chris's Movie Therapy Podcast.
Yeah, no, because like BVS, like to this day, like I feel like people, jump on it because of what other people say and not what their actual feelings about the movie are.
we have calmed down. I was a BVS defender in 2016. We were at war. We
Yeah.
were backed into the corner with little knives, like trying to defend ourselves. Nowadays, it feels like people are like, "Oh yeah, it's always the Ultimate Edition. It wasn't that bad," and I'm like, "Took you long enough."
Well, the thing is, even with the Ultimate Edition, like I love the Ultimate Edition, but for someone who doesn't need everything spelled out for them, they pretty much it was the same exact story.
Theatrical cut slaps for me. I'm not one of those people. I'm always like, no, both versions worked. Y'all were asleep. I don't know. Civil War. I blame Avengers Civil War. It was too close to each other.
Yeah. I remember going to the movies with some friends and we watched it, and then like after the movie, he was like, one of my friends was like, "Yeah, it was okay, but like I just didn't get it. Like, what was that fight that was going on in Gotham in the beginning?" And I'm like, "Dude, that was Metropolis. Like, it literally says it right in the middle of the screen. Like, what were you guys watching?"
Oh my goodness. Yeah, again, some people they need things spelled out, which, we'll talk about a movie today that doesn't want to spell anything out. That really it did its thing. It did something.
Well, with that being said, welcome to the latest episode of Sarat and Chris's Movie Therapy Podcast. It's your boy Sarat, aka Makazi, and today we're still doing our guest host thing, and I called in a professional. I'd like to call you a professional. I assume you get paid for what you do, or is it a labor of love, or both?
It's a bit of both. I'm a slave to Google sometimes of, what the algorithm will pay me even. But yeah, what I usually tell people is I'm on Rotten Tomatoes. Then they're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yes, I'm one of the Rotten Tomato critic people. Yeah, I am a professional film critic, I guess.
Well, I mean,
So
I've seen you've been quoted on the posters.
I was on that long legs marketing, man. I called it the scariest movie of the decade, which bit me in the butt when people saw it and they were like, it's not that scary. I was like, to you, calm down. Oh my God. Sorry. I made it onto the poster. Let me enjoy myself.
Well, for those listening right now and watching, you're being introduced to EJ Moreno. I know him from Full Sail. We used to run into each other at the NXT shows. I knew him and his mom. But, he also has a website out there called flickeringmyth.com. And he also has a YouTube channel. But why don't you tell the people about yourself?
Well, first off, you introduced me well. Yeah. I mean, if you ever watch the first couple of years of NXT, I'm in the front row all the time. I'm burned into that Kevin Owens moment when he turns on Sammy, and I'm
Yep.
just like in a Santa hat right behind them. And it's every time I'm like, oh, that's me in a Santa hat at an NXT show. Yeah, no, I am a professional film critic. I work for Flickering Myth. I'm the big person on their YouTube channel. And I have my own channel where I talk about weird TV shows, mostly American Horror Story. The algorithm again has forced me into just talking about one thing because it's like TikTok and stuff. You try to do something different, and everything's like, no, we're not going to promote that. That's weird.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the internet is ripe for things that are different, and that's the place where you're supposed to go to try something new. But then, you start paying attention to everything going around. You're like, oh, everybody's just kind of following each other. Like I watch a lot of trailer reactions, a lot of like movie reactions and music video reactions. And the minute you see one reaction hit, next thing you know, like there's tons of that same movie. And then it's not like they're dropping, months in advance and I'm just catching them. Like they're all dropping within weeks of each other. So
So
it's
for
awesome.
me, it was the Kendrick Lamar reaction week when he did Not Like Us. I did watch every person's reaction video for that. I don't know why. I was just like, I'm not even a reaction video. I was just hooked on that. So I get it. But again, like you said, reactions get same and we talking about the same thing. And yeah, I like to talk about different things. I do a lot of horror films. I do a lot of weird cult movies. I mean, I interviewed John Waters this year. Like I've had a wonderful year talking about weird things.
Speaking of weird things, that's kind of the movie we watched this week. This week, I selected the movie because obviously EJ watches a lot of movies. So chances are, whatever was going to get picked, he'd already seen. So luckily, I threw out a title and he hadn't seen it yet, which, is surprising because it's not it's not a Coen Brothers movie, but it's Ethan Coen.
Yeah, and I seem to, spoiler alert for some of my feelings, might be a Joel Cohen fan, maybe not an Ethan Cohen fan. We'll talk
Okay.
about that in a moment. But yeah, no, this had, look, I see a lot of movies professionally. They send me to see some. They didn't send me to see Drive Away Dolls. So I was like, I'm gonna watch it on my own time. So you made me watch it. Like, not in a bad way, but you made me watch it. And I finally got around to it. I want to see a lot of the movies from this year, and this was a good one to check off for this year because it's a Cohen movie. Like it's
Yeah, well,
Cohen.
it's Cohen, and you see Pedro Pascal on the cast list. You see Matt Damon. So I'm expecting, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I'm expecting, your usual Cohen Brothers movie. And yeah, this is one of those movies where you gotta be. I feel like you gotta be in a specific mood, and you gotta be, just up for anything because it hits you. I tried
Well,
watching this on a plane, and I had to turn it off 2 minutes in. I was like, let me wait till I get into the
that
front
is
hotel room.
so funny because that happened to me. I have a little one and I started it and he was going to bed, but I was like, let me just start it real quick. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm happy for the girls. You know what? I'm happy for them. They look like they're enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
I actually thought you'd probably being a little more lenient towards the movie just because, I mean, to be put it bluntly, this movie is pretty gay. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
I mean, I love that I was tricked into like a lesbian road trip movie. That was cool. There's things I like about this movie. I don't want to be super negative. I appreciate like a Cohen doing this plot. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like not what you would expect. If you know any Cohen Brothers movies, it makes me think of like Raising Arizona, like
Mhm.
their weird kind of, I don't mean this maybe not politically correct, but like they're like white trash saga that they used to do. They used to do a specific group of like 90s white folk living in like lower class. And I love those stories. And this is in that same vein. So I respect things that are here. I don't like quirky.
Okay.
Comedy is not my thing, as you could see back here with like things. So
Yeah.
quirky can sometimes drive me mad. There's a movie this year, Kinds of Kindness,
Yeah.
not my thing. Bless everyone's soul. That was that movie. Margaret Qualley was also in that movie. Me and her, she made choices with that accent.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so I mean, obviously, just listening to your take so far, I'm sure we can tell, your feelings on the movie. But as always, did you like this movie?
Yeah, I'm a letterbox person too, so I gave it a 3 stars. I would say if you know the Anthony Fantano movie critic or music critic, I gave it a light 3 stars out of 5. Like it's fine. It's not, it's well made. It's one of those not for me kind of movies. That's kind of where I think. I think I like it. I like it. I wish I would have loved it. You know what I mean? I feel like there's tweaks I could have loved, but I
Yeah.
like.
Okay, so like I'll probably fall into the same vein. I like to on it just because it's got a specific type of, like you said, quirkiness and a specific type of tone to it that it catches you off guard. If you're not expecting it, it's gonna catch you off guard. And I think if you're paying attention, the minute you see Pedro Pascal running and that whole opening scene, you're kind of like, okay, they're going for kind of a more of a caricature type of tone to it. And I don't know if I was expecting that or whatnot, or I usually like those kind of movies, but this one just wasn't really hitting for me.
Yeah, this is more, remember The Men Who Stare at Goats, that weird Coen brother movie? I like Burn After Reading. I like their weird characters and their caricatures. Like you said, they go for camp, they go for people who don't feel real. It took me a moment to get into this universe. I think by the end, I think I got where I was going by the time Matt Damon shows up and what was Matt Damon doing here, but other than doing a favor.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, oh, I think I get it. I
Yeah.
think I get it. Like again, Margaret Qualley's doing the Hawk Tuah girl accent basically. So
Yeah, it's like, so I liken this movie when I was watching it to Scott Pilgrim, in a sense that like it was kind of creating this world, and you inputted all these characters who all had their own little quirks, how accents, different, different takes on life. That like depending on how much of a relationship you built with them, or how much you like their characterization, it was whether you wanted to follow them along on this journey. And Margaret Qualley, like the minute you hear her accent, it's gonna catch you off guard, and it's gonna take a second before you adjust to it. And whether you let it take you on this journey, or just kind of let it knock you senseless, her character is gonna either stick out or be a fun, what's the word? A fun host to this story.
Yeah, and I think if more people were at her like 11, I would have maybe matched. But her co-star Geraldine Viswanathan, Nathan, I think, is she's good, but she's like there's such different characters that I like that they're comedy needs a wacky person and a straight man. That's just the classic comedy setup. Her straight man and the wacky person just felt like they were in different movies.
Yeah.
It wasn't until Beanie Feldstein came in, and then I felt like it all mixed together when she's in the end, that little cop at the end. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, you maybe actually should have been here with them the whole time. There was an imbalance with the characters that I just was like, there's a lot happening. But again, I do kind of appreciate a lesbian love story. And I was kind of like a sucker for being like, I hope these two weirdos do get together. Like, I hope you do use the senator's thing for your own use. Like, I hope that does happen for you all.
All right, before we dive in any more into the movie, as per usual on this podcast, I like to ask the guest a specific question. So, EJ, what you drinking?
This is a Starry, a nice light soda. I'm a old school Sierra Mist person,
Yeah.
so I have to, not dead name my poor drink over here. So it's a Starry. It's nice. It's just light.
I have a specific relationship with Sierra Mist in that I saw someone, I'm not going to name names. I saw someone have a Sierra Mist, and it was the first time in my life I had ever seen anyone on a sugar rush. Like, they had one Sierra Mist, and they were running around just acting a fool. And I'm like, what is going on right now? And they were like, yo, it's Sierra Mist. For some reason, just Sierra Mist makes me, nutty. And they're dancing, running around in my place. It was just, it was
the non-caffeinated one.
Yeah.
The it wasn't like a dew or something that gets you going.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of caffeinated, that's what I got right now.
Yeah. What do you got? What are you drinking? What's your normal kind of drinks?
I mean, usually I have alcohol in here, but like like I said, I was on a red eye. I'm on empty, so I just need a little kick. So it's just a nice little Wawa coffee. This is my reusable Wawa cup.
Oh, I like that though.
Yeah, it's old
Look at that.
Yeah, so
I have a small child, so I have plastic everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the Wawa, with the reusable cups, you get like 20 cents off the 16 ounce.
Oh, I mean, coffee's expensive. I don't know how y'all drink it. That's a habit again. As a caffeine, soda drinker, I get my own habits, but man, coffee's
okay. So for me, it doesn't break a fast, and I do a lot of fasting.
Yes.
So water, black coffee is safe on a fast. A lot of days I skip breakfast. I don't eat till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it comes in handy.
The life of rock star, my friend. The life of rock star.
All right. So this movie, if you didn't hear it already, it's Drive Away Dolls by Ethan Coen. I guess it's him and his wife wrote the script. And
yeah, I'm looking. Yes.
She was also the editor on the film.
That was, me and her might need to talk about editing. We might need to.
So there is a little trippy kind of, mushroomy kind of transition in some of these scenes. And like until the end is when it all, you kind of realize why that was happening. But I just don't know if I really.
Nah, I didn't need hallucination Miley Cyrus. I'm good. I could have took all of that out.
Well, do you think that was a favor as well? Or do you?
No, Miley's weird. Miley's a good time gal. She seems like if you call her, she's ready to like just yeah, sure. You know what I mean? I like those kind of people. We need those kind of people in like Hollywood in life. She seems cool, but again, I was like, who are we doing? I mean, Pedro Pascal, Coleman Domingo, they will take it. They will work. Like Coleman Domingo will be in a movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have again Letterboxd night. It tracks the actors I do, and I'm like, Coleman, chill out, bro. Yeah. You're in everything these days.
Yeah. It's just like it like this movie's littered with a couple cameos where you're just depending on how you feel about the movie, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna feel like we do. You're sitting there like, what are they doing in this movie? Like again, You know, when you see the ads with Matt Damon's face on it, you're like, okay, maybe he just did the ad. But when he actually shows up and is playing, I'm like, man, like, yeah, he had to have just, hey, brother, I need a favor this week. Like, I just need someone with some gravitas or some that can lend a little, what's the word, validity to this story. Could you mind coming in and playing a little part?
Yeah, and I mean those kind of actors are always needed. These roles have been around forever. You know, you need a Matt Damon to come in for an indie movie. But again, it just feels like maybe since the Coens are maybe having to start over, it feels like. So it feels like they're making first time movies. Like they're having to call in favors that they know. You know, Tarantino did that with, going into Pulp Fiction, where he made some friends with Reservoir Dogs and said, we'll make some phone calls now. And he did that. And it feels like that's what the Coens are doing now. But it's like, do you have to do that? Because like Joel Cohen did the tragedy of Macbeth, a couple
Yeah.
years ago with Denzel, and I love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies of that year, and it just feels like what's going on?
Well,
What's going on over
I didn't
here,
get to see that, but I was actually really curious to see what Denzel would be like doing Shakespeare.
bro? Eats it up. I could listen to like Denzel do that Shakespearean dialogue
Yeah.
forever. You know what I mean? And it's funny. I see him in the Gladiator trailers, and
Yeah.
it gives me the same vibe where I'm like, Denzel fits into any time period, any dialect, anything. He's just one of those guys. And I think this movie doesn't have a Denzel to come in and be like, you are my guiding force. Margaret Qualley's a good actress. I mean, she has pedigree. She's, Nepo baby from Andy McDowell. She's fine, but like she wasn't like you said, the host of this story. I
Yeah.
needed a different host. I kind of thought that was going to be, Coleman Domingo for a little bit or Pedro Pascal when it first started. Then I'm like, nope, things are in Pedro Pascal's neck. He is not making it out of this intro.
Dude, the minute he gets the wine bottle, the cork opener stuck in his, and then he has to twist it to try to get it out. I'm like, okay, this is the kind of movie we're going for. So the story that if with Drive-Away Dolls is you have Pedro Pascal is for lack of a better term, a collector or a smuggler, whatever you want to call it. And, he gets, killed off and his, collection lands in the hands of Margaret Qualley and her friend as, there's a lesbian couple who they break up. And in order to try to either figure out life or figure out, where the other person wants to go, she takes her friend who's kind of a prude and says, "Hey, we're gonna go do this drive away thing," which is supposed to be, you could take a car from one town, from one destination to the next, as a what is it called? Like it's just a one way drop off.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like, if I need a car transported somewhere, what am I going to do? Drive it? And it made sense. The bare bent. It's very 1999, which is the movie set in 1999 because there's a lot of references to the time period and things like that. But yeah, it feels very of the time plot. And the dolls are just driving.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like. The dolls are driving.
and then you got this road trip story, but then you also got this other story about the guys coming after, trying to look for the what do you want to call it? The treasure? I don't know what you want to call it.
Treasure to some, not for me, not my treasure, but yeah, yeah, there's this, like, it's the typical mob wants their gold, or
Yeah,
mob
they're
wants their
MacGuffin.
money. It's,
Yeah,
what's the stupid thing in Pulp Fiction with the briefcase that glows? It's
yeah,
the same kind of vibe.
yeah,
That's what they want. They want to find this. And it's the mob. Coleman Domingo runs the mob in this little thing, and he has two henchmen that are, Cohen brother henchmen,
yeah,
useless. Every movie that they have, there is these henchmen that I'm like, what are we
yeah.
doing, Bubs?
Yeah, but
Just
so essentially, you got these guys chasing down these girls, and it culminates in for a kind of a gunfight. Kind of, it's kind of a lackluster interaction at the end.
yeah. Well, I will say the actual end with like the Matt Damon scene, that's more of an interesting, like,
Yeah,
that's more of an interesting moment than it is with the when the girls get tied up. It feels like the movie has like three different plots, as you said. It's like, and they that could work. You know what I mean? A good movie can have these different threads and they come back at the end and they all blend together. But like the guys were chasing the girls, and the girls weren't knowing that they were getting chased for like a good chunk of the movie. Like there wasn't the, oh my god, I can't, they can't get caught. The girls are just trying to hook up with other girls the whole movie, which
yeah.
I support. My sisters, but like
Look, listen, like you said, there's a couple different plot points going. The one that I was actually pretty interested in the most was essentially, you had, what were their names? I just
I have them right now. Again, characters don't really stick here. Jamie is Margaret Qualley's character, and Marion is Geraldine's character.
and Suki is is Jamie's ex-girlfriend who's also,
Yes.
but so okay, so essentially you got this story where Marion is kind of coming into her own with her sexuality, trying to becoming comfortable with it. And you have Jamie, who's a sexual deviant, and,
She is a mess.
and she's basically trying to help Marion kind of open up and be a little more at ease with who she is as a with her sexuality and who she is as a person. But in doing so, they kind of realize there's a connection there, which that whole plot point I actually liked a lot. I could have did without the whole head and the dildos and all that shit. Like,
I mean, you gave away the wonderful spoiler of this movie that's what the gold was, basically. Yeah, no, I could have dealt with all of that. There was this other movie this year. I don't know if you saw it, Love Lies Bleeding. Kirsten Stewart's in it, and
heard of
cool
it.
muscle chick. It's a very similar, like, lesbians dealing with the mob crime kind of stuff. That one's more thriller, kind of graphic, weird.
Yeah.
That one gets weirder. But I like that. I like these stories, and I think again it's organic. These two have good chemistry together. I think they
Yeah.
bounce off each other so well. And then again, when Beanie comes in as the ex, I liked the little dynamic there, but we didn't get enough of those. And we would cut to Coleman Domingo on the phone. It seems like he was not there, trying to be there every day of shooting. He was like, I will come in for a couple days and let me go do, I don't know. I was gonna say Euphoria, but he's not even doing that. One of the other bazillion things he's doing. Yeah, and then Pedro Pascal's there for 2 seconds. You know, what was his name? I have it here. Curly, the
Yeah.
little car guy. What happened with him when he's just, can anyone help save
Yeah,
Curly?
yeah. No one wants to. How come no one wants to save Curly? He
Yeah,
just misses the paper in the air.
I like those little moments. Those are the stupid Coen brother movie, and I mean stupid in the funniest way. Of like I love those dumb moments of throwing the paper up, trying to get thing, and no one says it. But then not that I needed to go see the Curly origin story, but like, what the hell happened to him? You know what I mean? There's so many of these little moments that I'm like, nothing pays off.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
I think part of the reason why nothing pays off is because you didn't like you saw the stuff going on with the mobsters and chasing down the head and the briefcase, and then you saw the girls going on their road trip, and they didn't really intersect until halfway to the movie. So like by that time you're like, yeah, I'm waiting for it to kind of develop and see how all this is gonna mesh together, and like maybe I did the wrong thing by looking at the timestamps and seeing how long of a movie we had left. But I was like, man, I don't think there's gonna be enough time for this story to really develop to where I'm worried for these girls' safety. Before that, it was just kind of a sexual romp and seeing, the story about, Jamie trying to get Marion to come out a little more. And that was actually a lot more interesting. I don't know how you find a full lesbian soccer team, but
again, those are the characters that I liked meeting them. They were funny and dumb, and they came in perfectly. I agree with you. I see a lot of movies. I love a 4-hour film, but these days I'm begging for an hour and a half, a 90-minute movie. Thank you. I'm happy this exists. So I was happy that this was short, but then I'm getting into the story. Like you said, I'm looking at the time and I'm like, ooh, I don't know what, I don't think we're gonna match up to what we need to be matching up to. And we never really got there. And it just kind of ended. And I don't even hate the ending. I thought, let's go try to go get married. Haha. I thought it was all cute. I thought it worked. But then I'm like, the lady that they're in the car with, I was like, who is this lady? Why are we, it was frustrating. This movie, there's so many pieces that are there. Even again, the weird mob stuff that I didn't care for, that could have been intertwined a little bit better, and it could have worked. It just never hits that extra level it needed to.
yeah, I feel like it did. Yeah, I feel like it was always in like maybe second gear, and it needed to go a couple more gears to actually ramp up the tension and really, you gotta kind of feel like the girls are gonna be in trouble, but you didn't really get that sense the entire movie, like at all, until like it felt like when they got caught, it was just kind of just happenstance, like it just all of a sudden, next thing they get caught and then they're tied up. And it's just like, you didn't even feel like they were, trying to fight for their lives. You didn't think that at any point, they might, not make it out of there. It was just kind of because that scene just took a couple minutes, and it, in no way did they affect the outcome of that scene.
Yeah, I think again, even the same movie, same everything, 20 more minutes.
Yeah,
Expanding that capture scene,
yeah,
adding maybe one more scene of the guys almost catching them, and then they having to like acknowledge it. But yeah, like when they were going to different places, it wasn't felt like they weren't hiding out at the lesbian soccer people place. They
yeah,
just happened to be there, which again, like, how do you find these people? Like when
yeah.
I was single, where was my own lesbian soccer team? But yeah,
Yeah, well, 'cause
that's
they
the
had
whole time.
that.
I'm like, oh
Well, they had that original setup, right? Where like they're trying to plot the drive to Tallahassee, and she's pointing out all these different lesbian bars that can swing by, and like I'm sitting there looking like, oh, this is going to be one of those movies where it's they play the straight people, and then all these wacky characters that they run into on the way are going to be what drives the movie and things like that. But you got one lesbian bar,
yeah.
the soccer team, and then that was it. And then it kind of okay, let's introduce the briefcase and in the head, and then they go into a whole thing about trying to make a cast of the
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and again, what you just pitched to me earlier was just Eurotrip, and I wanted them to make Eurotrip. If you remember that movie from the 2000s,
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
Do you have a favorite road trip movie?
oh, it's a genre that's not like my favorite personally. Do you remember Rat Race?
Oh hell yeah!
I'm a low-key Rat Race person.
I there's a line in that movie that I quote all the time, and it's Cuba Gooding Jr. when he's at the bar and he goes, "Excuse me, ma'am." She turns around and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were a lady." She's like, "I am." So, Dad, hurry up! I'm prairie dogging it.
No, you have it nailed there. Those are I like those kind of movies. I miss a Rat Race. I miss Road Trip, Euro Trip. Those kind of movies were really fun. I think this movie needed to lean into that comedy more, maybe be a little raunchier comedy. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? There was times where I was like, it was raunchy for what it wanted to be, but I was expecting like, and then here is the wacky lady that lives in Arkansas. Like,
yeah.
let me go to each state. Like you said, I think you did nail it there. I didn't think about it. This movie does work better as like a lesbian road trip movie than it is a Cohen crime drama.
Yeah, when it first started off, I was like, "Oh, it might be a lesbian Dumb and Dumber." Like, let's go. Let's see what happens. They're trying to, maybe it starts off, they find the briefcase, and then all of a sudden they're trying to like figure out what's going on with it. They figure out that the mobsters are chasing them, and in that, during that chase is where they run into all these people who are either going to help them or point them towards the mobsters. But I felt like that, if they had done that a little more, and then interspliced it with Marion coming into her own with her sexuality, I think that would have been a better movie than this, because it felt like they started making one movie and then halfway through they decided, oh yeah, we got to tie this whole other thing up.
Yeah, like why did she get arrested? Remember that scene? What
Yeah,
what was that? What did that serve to anything?
yeah.
It
He,
wasn't like she met a cool lesbian in jail where she was like, "Oh, the butch one that I've learned something from." Learn lessons, learn lesbian lessons. I'm sure there's great lessons to be learned.
yeah,
Learn something. You
yeah.
know what I mean? It's just nothing really happened of anything.
She's laying in jail, reminiscing about probably her first moment where she realized she might like women, and the next thing you know, Jamie has already bailed her out, but you don't even know how or why or what happened.
Yeah.
They're just in the car again, you know?
And again, we just talked about it with BVS. I don't need everything explained. You don't have to hold my hand. I've seen enough movies in my life. This movie, I hold my hand a little bit more. Like
Yeah.
they let me free roam a little too much here, and I was just like, "Ooh, no, I need to be guided. Give me a guiding force here, please."
You ever seen the movie Sex Drive?
No, no, I have not.
Ooh, you gotta watch Sex
Ooh,
Drive.
let me add that to a list.
Oh, it's a teen road trip movie. It's got what's his name?
Well, I love a James Marsden.
Yeah, James Marsden's in it. Oh, his character is awesome. It's got Clark Duke. Um,
Seth Green.
yep, Seth Green's in there. Amanda Crew is in it before she got her teeth done, which I prefer her with her teeth like that. Once
I love
when I
I
saw her
love
when I saw her in what's that movie with Zac Efron. The one with the kids, the little brother in the boat. Damn it.
A little brother in the boat.
Hold on. I gotta look this up right now. Zac Efron, and he has a little brother and a sailboat.
I was gonna say the Peanut Butter Falcon, but that's Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, no, that's a great movie. I
Yeah.
think we just did that on the pod like a couple weeks ago. Zac Efron movies. Let's see, IMDb. It's an early movie. God damn it, where's his filmography at?
I was like, I can only, the Iron Claw. For some reason, my modern. Oh, did you see Ricky Stenicki this year?
No, that was one of the movies I was gonna.
I have seen it, but Mr. Cena eats that movie up.
Okay, I like Cena when he plays.
Oh man,
No,
one of our greatest comedic talents of our modern day. I was saying like him, Channing Tatum, of these guys who shouldn't be funny. They're so funny.
Yeah. Charlie St. Cloud. That's a movie.
Wow. You could put a gun to my head and tell me to name every Zac Efron movie ever, and that one would have got me killed. That one was wow.
Okay, so just okay. So I feel bad saying this, but just for Amanda Cruz's teeth, you have to you have to watch Sex Drive. She's awesome in Sex Drive, and then when you watch Charlie St. Cloud, you're just like, you just got veneer. I can't get past the veneers.
Yeah, veneers are. They're a crazy thing to get sometimes. Our mine is I love when we do that with celebrities. Like, oh, remember Enrique Iglesias before the mole came off? You know what I mean? Those celebrities that we have those milestones for them. Ooh, before the mole, before the teeth. Oh, love that. Love that.
I mean, it's weird. Like, some people they before they do something like that, those slight little imperfections are what make you feel real.
Mm-hmm.
Jules' teeth.
Mm-hmm. Like Lady Gaga never fixed her nose, even though it was such a talking point at one point. She was like, nah, this is my nose. Y'all, kind of deal with it. And then Star is Born was like, let's point out the nose.
Yeah. Well, look at Morgan Freeman. He's got the
his little things. Yeah.
They aren't perfect, but that's part of what makes him feel like, I feel like when I watch him, there's a connection and a gravitas to him that like makes you feel grounded.
I want to see real people sometimes. Again, we just said like a Cena. I love seeing people who look like a Zac Efron, a Cena, that I'm like, what is this human being? But sometimes I want a person that looks like a human that I could talk to. They make movies believable. Like one of the henchmen in this movie, he used to be on the show Nip Tuck, and he was in like a bunch of other things. He's in Twister. He's one of the henchmen in Drive Away Dolls. And I'm like, he looks like a person that looks like a real person. Philip Seymour Hoffman is another great example. I just Twister's in my head because we're in Twister season. I love those people that again who looked like somebody and this movie has it. Like Margaret Qualley, she's a beautiful girl, but she also can look very plain, and I like that. There's something, she's very supermodel, and there's some of them who can't do it. Like what's her name? Anya Taylor-Joy. She always looks like an ethereal alien, and that's just what she is. She's beautiful. I love her, but she can't.
That's why I liked her in what is it? Last Night in Soho.
Yes. Yeah.
Because she played the dream girl, it worked.
Yes. Where and it also worked in Furiosa, where she looks crazy, and that's such a heightened world too. But again, I like people who look real. And I miss that sometimes.
Is there a movie that you saw or that you've seen where you're like, I can't get past just the way the leads look? Like it just pulls you out of the movie?
The first Mummy, 1999. Everyone is so beautiful in that movie that it's like Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser just being so hot. Also, I feel that way about the new Dune movies, where I'm like, no, everyone's too pretty in this Dune movie. Like, Austin Butler looks hot. Like, everyone's just too beautiful. Like, what's going on here? So,
even with the black teeth, I was like, dude, Austin Butler looks fucking dope in this movie.
There's a couple people that if I have to do a hear me out, Austin Butler and Dune is one of my just hear me out. Beetlejuice, another one of my hear me outs. Just look, I know, I get it, he's dead, but like, hear me out. Like, so.
Now, did you ever see the movie 10,000 BC?
Yes.
With Stephen Strait. I can't get past that movie because like every time I watch it, I'm like, why are their teeth so white? It's 10,000 BC. Why are their teeth so freaking white? Why are there woolly mammoths helping build the pyramids? Like, it's just little choices like that where I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, I love a suspending reality. I think we've lost that in movies sometimes where everything, well, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to make sense. It's a
Yeah.
movie, fictional characters from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I let them do whatever they want. But also, I need some kind of like, what is your reality? I think
Yeah.
movies are forgetting that. Is like Drive Away Dolls kind of does that. It doesn't do that for me, where I'm like, what is this movie's reality?
Yeah.
Give me, it could be weird, it could be wackadoo, doesn't need to make sense. I love John Waters movies. None of his universes are real places.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But, let me know what this universe is. And this movie never sat me down and was just like, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
Here's where we are.
Yeah. It felt like they were trying to create a world kind of like you've seen Baby Driver, right?
Yes, I'm not a fan, but yes.
So within Baby Driver, you have like kind of a familiar setting, but then you have these characters that are kind of like, you're bumped up a little bit, they're kind of like on 90. And when you see that, like, you can see how those characters might live in that world. Whereas in Drive Away Dolls, it just felt like they were trying to do that, but I didn't really get much of a flesh out on any of the characters. So it's like, I just feel like I'm only getting what you're giving me, and there's not enough there for me to build a relationship with.
Yeah, again, and we need this little world building. We need things like that. I trying to watch the Borderlands movie we were talking about, and I just don't get the world. And maybe because I don't play the video games or anything, but I just didn't understand it. So you know what I mean? There's things that sometimes I'm like, I just need to be sat down for even 2 minutes of exposition. You can look me hard in the camera and tell me everything, but at least I get it. You know what I mean? That's something I like about a Zack Snyder. He does a good way of like reversing world building where he'll thrust you into a world and then he'll slowly explain this is the mechanics of it, this is what's going on. You
Yeah.
can do that. And again, I miss movies that try to actually explain that. That's why I'm not a big Dune fan. I'm just like, I've read the books, I've done all that, but I'm like, I don't like this universe. You know what I mean? It's so cold and distant for me. Where like I'm not the biggest Star Wars person, but every time I see a Star Wars thing, I'm like, this is fun. I don't want to live here. This is the worst cinematic universe to want to live in, but this is fun. This is a cool little adventure. And I miss sometimes just dumb fun that, but also still took itself a bit seriously and
I,
tried to explain itself.
I will go on record and saying I prefer Rebel Moon over Dune. Just I've
Oh,
watched them both. I've watched them both. The director's cuts of Rebel Moon are far superior to the original, but like just in the fun I was having, like I liked Dune 2. Actually, I liked Dune 2 a lot, but I I didn't after watching Dune 1, I don't think I would have given Dune 2 a chance if I wasn't
Mhm.
covering it on the pod. Because I was so bored by Dune 1, I was just like, I don't know if I want to keep on going with this.
You're my favorite
Whereas with
human
Rebel
being.
Moon, I was just like, I had fun with it. Yeah, it's a little, the original was a little more rushed, and when you got the director's cut, it fleshed it out a little more. But it's like whether you didn't get it or you didn't understand much going on, like I was having fun with it, so I really wanted to see, how much more fun I could have. But in the director's cut, like it just the pacing was better. I
Yeah.
liked the action better. So like I really those some of those extended scenes really just helped elevate the emotion I was getting from the characters.
Yeah, again, we need that for a thing. I'm dealing with that in the horror community. You know what movies I like more than a really popular franchise? I just watched the new Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 kind of movie. I will watch that more than the Terrifier movies. I
Really?
don't like the Terrifier movies. I just think I think the guy who's playing Arthur Clown is doing awesome. He is acting. I hate the universe where at least the stupid Winnie the Pooh movie was like, here's what's happening. This is the plot. This is an easy to follow thing. Where Terrifier, I'm like, what's happening? Like, why do I like what? I don't know. I like a good gore and all that, but again, sometimes I just like a movie that wants to sit you down, even if it's not as polished, even if it's not as mainstream, that actually sits down and wants to like
Did
take
you
you along with you and bring you along. And that's like the best stories that we have is
yeah,
where you are in the passenger seat.
yeah. Did you watch Five Nights at Freddy?
I did watch Five Nights at Freddy's.
What do you think of that?
I really like the way the animatronics looked.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, weird dream sequences. I was expecting like a more of a haunted house movie
Yeah, yeah.
than weird surreal, and then Matthew Lillard comes in. I'm like, forget Matthew Lillard, you're great. You're amazing.
I enjoyed it. I thought like, when Matthew Lillard came in, I was like, oh, he kind of turned it into like kind of the Scooby Doo kind of feel. Like, oh, you figured out who the person behind all the things going on was happening. But yeah, I thought it was a fun watch. I think they left a lot there that could be expanded on. So if they decide to do another one, I think there's more you can either take it in the direction of much more horror or be a little more campy and fun. Yeah, no, I liked it. Yeah, yeah. Same thing with this. Like, I think there's a lot here that you could expand on to actually make it like a world, or you could take the characters and just really like dig into who they are as people. Like, did you have a favorite character in the movie?
Ooh, no, which is a struggle you have with any kind of movie like this. You want to like people. I mean, Margaret Qualley was great. I relate to her character. I would be probably more of a her than, the more prudish
Yeah.
friend.
Are you taking your friends to basement parties with where you do basically make out roulette?
you know that's a very like college thing I would have done, sure, but like no, you know what I mean. I like this character. I felt she, I think a lot of times these especially in LGBT films, people will be like, well, that's not realistic or anything. No, I know this girl, you know what I mean. I know that guy. Like, I think these characters are very accurate. I thought they were portrayed authentically. And again, I like Beanie Feldstein. She's always in stuff that I'm always like, I can see you being related to Jonah Hill. I mean, I can see your comedy there is like so at an 11, but I didn't get enough of her to be, she would have been my favorite if I would have got a little bit more of her, more of her investigation that was failing, very Fargo kind of vibe.
Dude, when she was breaking down, having to unscrew the dildo from the wall.
Again, that moment, or when she's just beating that dude, when he just walks into her house and she's like, anyways, just fighting you, and he's doing nothing. I was just like, see, those moments are good. I like her
Yeah.
character, so she would probably be my favorite if I got just a little bit more of, you
I think
know,
my, I think my favorite was Jamie, just because like I liked kind of the over the top accent, but more than anything, I liked the journey her character took, because she was kind of that the free spirit, just chasing her own emotions, and then in trying to help her friend come out and just be free, she realizes she's got a little more sentiment to herself, and she starts building a relationship with her friend. So I like that idea, because I like the idea of someone. Oh, maybe I'm a hopeless romantic, but I like the idea of someone you know who's kind of out there and free, and can find someone who can make them want to change their ways.
And you know what? I would agree with you. I don't even think she wants her to really change her ways. Even I think she likes her being the wild child. You know what I mean? And she even explores her wild side too. Of like, well, I want to use. I love that line. I did have to write that. Can we use the senators? I was just like, I can't believe they did that. Okay, you know what I mean? I like those moments, and I like that thing where you said it's this cute love story. And as someone who was maybe more of a Jamie and
Yeah.
wanted to do a more normal life now that I have, it makes sense. And
Yeah.
I appreciate this thing. And I think the thing will keep me from ever hating this, even if I didn't love the tone, is a Cohen. I always love when a straight person who normally doesn't do LGBT film does it and makes it authentic, and they don't have to.
Yeah.
Truly, he could have just made these two a man and a woman couple.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Could do the same story. I like that he did it. It felt authentic. It's not the perfect representation, but I want that, to be honest. I'm tired of everyone feeling so perfect. If your certain minority community has to, come off so, oh, aren't we great citizens? No, there's
Yeah.
bad people out there. I want to see bad gay people. You know what I mean? Like, and I like that Jamie is not a perfect representation, and
Yeah.
she's messy and weird, and yeah, I think it was cute. Again, I appreciate the Cohen, Ethan Cohen for doing that. Did not have to. So
Yeah. Well, I thought my favorite scene in the movie is when Jamie finally talks Marion into having sex, and just you need a good fuck, kind of what she basically told her. But then she goes down on her, and then Marion passes out, and you get this little sentimental moment where she's like I'm here for you. This moment is for you. That's all that mattered. You getting to this point in your life is all that mattered. And she just lays down next to her and cuddles with her. And I thought that was a really nice scene, because it just showed that even the most crass or rude kind of person can
uh,
have a moment where they feel like they can put someone else's well-being in front of theirs. I mean, side point, they also cut right to her.
her doing the thing.
I was like,
I mean, she was going in.
I was like, what the
Yeah, and again, those are the moments where like, yeah, the movie does play with tone and it plays with vibes often. And when again, the more we talk about it, the more I appreciate like just the weirdness of this, like that little scene where it's just a weird good cut. That's probably my favorite edit of the whole thing, where
Yeah,
it just marketplace like
yeah.
vibe. It's so weird.
Yeah, she was going. I was sitting there, I was like, man, is that like, I don't know if that's a realistic, representation of a girl having an orgasm, but at the same time, like, it was just so fitting because the scene right before was so quiet and sentimental that like you needed that real harsh, jumped back to the whatever reality they were and said, oh no, she's still this wild child that's just out, trying to do her thing.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, we all have that friend who like the room gets real serious for a second and then they make the fart joke or they do something stupid to break the tension. You need that moment. And that's what that moment played for me was like the movie's like, okay, we're not gonna get too serious. Like I know we got cute there for a moment, but don't worry, we're still stupid. And it's just like, oh good. I think like you said, that nailed it perfect. And we all have that friend. And the movie really did capture that vibe of like, oh you.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually the perfect phrase for it. Like, Jamie. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if you had to go on a road trip, if you're going on a road trip right now, grabbing one of your friends and going, like, where are you going?
I this is a confession. I mean, this is gonna be one of the most millennial things I say. I don't know how to drive.
What?
So I know,
Florida. You
I
got
know.
to drive
Trust.
Everywhere.
Oh, honey, and I'm an Uber girl. Like I am Ubering everywhere. Like I am a celebrity. When Netflix gives me vouchers when I'm in LA, I'm like Uber blacking. Yes, I feel great. I do love a walk too. But
Yeah.
no, so I'm always a passenger princess. I'm just always stuck being so I want to go. Usually I'm kind of open-minded. Wherever you want to go. Uh Living in Florida, we're a stupid drive to the state. Like getting out of the state feels like it takes forever sometimes. I've done the Jacksonville trek sometimes, and I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. So I would love to I want to do the diagonal. I want to go from like, like a North Carolina to California.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
I want to cut across the whole thing, not skip Texas, because from
Yeah.
what I hear, driving through Texas is one of the most daunting things ever. I don't know if you do so much road tripping, or I don't know if you're more plane based these days, but
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a lot of planes, but like, because when I used to be on, the indie circuit, like anything, I lived in Massachusetts, but I used to wrestle in Pennsylvania all the time and New Jersey. So like anything under 4 hours is a short drive for me. So
yeah.
So like that's nothing. And like every year I do it for Christmas. I do a Christmas road trip where I drive from Orlando back up to Massachusetts. And like I always plot it out and I, find Airbnbs along the way. I don't drive more than 4 to 5 hours a day. Find a
Okay.
different find different towns to stop in, usually based off of where there's a good dog park and like, take the dogs, go on this road trip. And it's always fun to me. Like just taking a road trip where work and everything else takes a back seat to this adventure. I recommend you do it at some point. Like,
Yeah, and you know what? As not a driver, you are the perfect person to road trip with. Like you're planning. I'm a plan person. Vacations. I
yeah,
like a little plan. You have it there. The animals. I'm always like my partner's a cigarette smoker, so I never get the like. Oh, I have to stop.
yeah.
Oh, the dogs have to get out. Like especially your dogs are probably divas, so you know what I mean. Like oh gosh.
Ryu just falls asleep in the back.
Oh, I
Literally,
would say I did just see Ryu on television being a diva, so you know.
no, that wrong one. Those
Those are the
distant,
different ones.
they're
Okay.
distant cousins. Ryu, he was
Distant
he
cousins.
was he was on what? He did the NXT entrance.
Yes, which adorable.
Sasha versus Io.
Oh yes, yeah, with the car and everything.
Yeah, they would know. When he got back, Hunter was like, "Hey, buddy's a little excited out there, huh?" Like, yeah, got Red Rocket, bro. That's it happens.
Icon, legend. No, I know. Again, dogs are just always like these things with road trips that like scares me. Like oh, we have to stop for this. Oh, we have to stop for that. Where like I either want to like stop, like you said, every 4 hours,
Yeah.
or let's just get through it. You know what I mean? Like let's just. But I'm not the driver, so I can never really say that.
Well, I've driven from Massachusetts to Florida straight through. It took me about 21 hours, and like I stopped for gas. I started at like 1 or 2 in the morning. I was in Orlando by 8, 9
Oof.
o'clock. Yeah, I've done it before. I mean, that's fun, but like, I nowadays I prefer taking a week, stopping every 4 hours that we're not driving anymore, stopping in
Yeah.
Savannah, go hang out, let the dogs run around, then go have a nice dinner, explore Savannah a little bit. Next time, stop in DC. Like it's just, I don't know. I feel like the road trip in and of itself is just so lost because people are on the internet so much that
Mhm.
they feel like nothing's new. Like you get to a place, you get to DC, you go to the Lincoln Memorial, people are like, oh, I've already seen this on the internet. So they don't really appreciate it the way you would have back in the day, you know?
Yeah, my parents just did like a trip to Niagara Falls, like went to Canada and everything. And it like such like a simple trip that like you would feel like, oh, the Niagara Falls, but like it almost felt like so novel now because like no one does stuff like that. Everyone's like, oh, I could see that online. I love those kind of things. I think those are appreciative. And I'm glad to hear like someone who your life is far more travel based than like mine is,
Yeah.
that you haven't like these road trip movies don't like trigger you or something, that you still find something kind of heartwarming about it. I would love to see a wrestling road trip movie. I think that is such a I hear it so often. That's something you hear mostly indies. I know that's such an indie thing. Or even
Mm.
I hear the WWE stories. They used to have the ride along shows and all that were pretty cool. I like those things. I think there is something to it, and maybe the wrestlers do find the decapitated head in the car, and you know what I mean. Like I would have this whole movie with three wrestlers would have just been hilarious.
All right.
Like
Let me pitch something to you here because here's an idea I've had for the last 15, 16 years. And I want to write it. I want to write it. I want to pitch it to you right now. So story is you got four friends. This is literally based off the movie Road Trip. But you got four friends. They're about to graduate high school, and they're all going off to different colleges, whatever. And so they want to go do something that commemorates their last years together in high school. So they all buy tickets to WrestleMania. And so they're supposed to fly out to WrestleMania day before or 2 days before, or whatever. And then the morning comes and they miss their flight. There's no other flights going out there, so they have to make the road trip from wherever they live out to Florida or LA to go see WrestleMania. And during the trip, you take all these WWE wrestlers, and they're the ones playing the random wild characters throughout the movie. You go to a diner and Big Show's the cook,
yeah.
things like that. And then the whole crux of the idea is, one of the friends is just moving on with life. He wants to just get past this point in his life and move forward. Where you got one friend who's not going to college, who's trying to, this is his kind of his last hurrah with his friends. And so it's the whole idea is, we got to try to stick together no matter where our lives take us.
No, that's a great story. I think that it's a simple story, and I think that wrestling angle to it, we're seeing more. I think wrestling is in this weird uptick of like it's cool to now say you like wrestling. Remember what I
Yeah.
was a kid in high school who was like, oh, I don't really like wrestling, even though I was a diva stan back in the day. I was Kellying it up back in the day, girl.
I'm a lot.
Um,
So when I was in high school, it was still Attitude Era. So it was
yeah,
everybody was watching Stone Cold and The Rock back then.
Yeah, unfortunately, mine was a little less of a popular era, but again, it's still awesome to be. And I think there's something about being a wrestling fan that it almost out of any sports thing, it almost feels the most engaging for people to fall into. The plot. Oh, remember, it came out this year, 80 for Brady. It's a very similar vibe of like friends going on this trip to a destination, and I think that's a really good angle. The only thing I said about wrestling is, can you imagine trying to get to your indie show and it's almost like a thriller? It's like an Uncut Gems, but
Yeah.
it's you trying to get to your indie booking, and it's just like, oh no, we have to drive there in 3 hours.
So I've had times where there's these things we used to do called double shots, and a double shot is when you have two shows in one day. So you do one show at like 4 o'clock in New Jersey, and then you have to make it up to Connecticut for a 7 o'clock show. So you're like, hey, can you put me on first? Put me on, you get dressed, you just go get in your car, in your gear. You're trying to drive. There's traffic on the George Washington Bridge. You're just like shit. Like there was one time I was wrestling. He's in TNA now, Eddie Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a show in Massachusetts, and he was doing a double shot. So I'm sitting here waiting. We're just like, okay, waiting for Eddie to show up. And like 10 minutes before our match, he shows up. He goes, hey man, sorry. Fuck it. He goes, it took forever. I was like, oh, no, good. You're good. You're good. I was like, who'd you work? He goes, oh, Frankie. He goes, all right, cool. I was like, you remember the match? He goes, yeah. I was like, all right, just call it to me in the ring. Let's go. And we just did the same match he had just done with Frankie. So he's just telling me whatever I need to do, and I'm just following along. Like, yeah.
No, that's awesome. Again, I mean, wrestling will forever have just stories like that of like the thing. And also, I have a lot of friends who are drag queens. Wow, wrestling and drag is the same.
Yeah.
The same double booking yourselves, having to go in a full gig from one look to another. Like,
Wrestling, dragging, freaking stand-up comedy. It's all the same thing. You
yeah,
know,
I mean,
I
and
need you to go outside on the street and sell tickets. And if you can sell a good amount of tickets, we'll put you on the show tonight. You know?
yeah, no, it's crazy of like that mentality, and I think that's all three of those things you just mentioned can work with a road trip movie.
Yeah.
That's something that's that it's that weird nature of the beast. That's why I don't understand how people do any of those three things. They seem draining on your heart and soul, and in a good way, but also just like man, but the hustle, that adrenaline, it's fun, and I think again, to kind of tie it back into the movie, that's what this movie was missing was that shot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
That oh my god
Yes.
just that like, ooh, it has to work. I need to get to the destination by stupid. I mean, I just played a Resident Evil game, one of the old ones. I love when that stupid timer's going off, even though I'm never going to have this mansion blow up on me. I love when that timer's going off because it gives me that deadline. I can't lollygag.
Yeah.
Come on, Jill, get into shape. Like,
And
so.
I think that was my biggest issue with the movie is at no point in this movie did I ever feel that there was any consequences to the actions that Jamie and Marion were having. Like they were just kind of going on an adventure, but they never really felt like they were in any danger. They never felt like there was anything that was going to come out of it that was like life changing or beneficial to them. It just felt like kind of they were just on the road and some things were happening. So
No, yeah, you locked it perfectly. It's like I won't hate this movie. I appreciate what it is. It's not for me. I don't think I'll ever like watch it again. It's been one of those like, oh, I wish I could recommend this to somebody, but unless I have like a really weird like lesbian friend that like likes weird movies, that's like the only person I would suggest that to. Which we all have that friend. I'm not saying I don't have someone to do that with, but I'm also like, I don't know, like I don't really, I don't know. It exists.
yeah, same. That's kind of how I feel about the movie too. It's there. I might tell my friend, hey, go check out this movie. Just don't watch it in front of your kids, kind of thing. But
Or on a plane.
yeah,
I love when that happens on movies. I love when people, I'm always like, I was traveling last year and someone started a movie and I was like, oh, you're doing, it was like Midsummer or something. I'm like,
yeah.
really? That movie right here?
Well, okay, so I have this rule. If it's on the entertainment system for the plane, sorry, whoever's sitting behind me, you're gonna see it because they put it on the plane, not my fault.
Yeah.
But if it's on my tablet, I'm like, let me switch this movie. Let me put on Transformers real quick and just
Yeah.
not even bother with this. All right. Well, I mean, that's it for Drive Away Dolls. But as far as you, EJ, like, how did you become a movie critic? Like, what brought you to the point where, I mean, granted, you went to Full Sail, which is a film school, but like, what brought you to the point where you're like, hey, I want to talk about movies?
I think I went to Full Sail with I wanted to be a director. I like the idea of entertaining people and doing all that, that host aspect. And then that word stuck out to me as, maybe I don't want to direct films. Maybe I want to be a Joan Rivers, a Jimmy Fallon. I like that idea. I started falling in love with talking about movies so much. And, was upset that I didn't start doing YouTube when I was in film school, 2013, all that. I thought that would have been fun and smarter then, but I started falling into it. And I just love talking about it. I just something about it. I fell in love with just BSing. And I think I bring an angle into film criticism that I wanted to feel like you just called up a friend and was just like, girl, let me tell you about this movie I just saw. That's
Yeah.
my whole vibe. That's the exact vibe I want. I think that's fun. And I think it's different. I could go in and be like, well, the cinematography, sure, I can do that. I do it every now and then of just kind of get my actual film criticism on, especially when like a movie like Dune, where I was like, see, my problems are deeper than that. Now I got to talk
Yeah.
trash. Now I got to talk about this movie. Man, my first time I reviewed that Dune movie, I got death threats, dude.
Really?
I took the movie from 90 to 89 on Rotten Tomatoes. And now that I've learned my lesson, I wait a couple times to see where that little Rotten Tomato score is going before I upload it because them Dune fans came for me. And they were like, "You're gay," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." First off, y'all need better insults. Yes, we know that. Moving on now. Anything else?
Bro, you're like Cartman in that Yelp episode of South Park.
Oh no, that's how it feels, dude. It's I have a power. I just saw one of my critic people. It was the Borderlands film, and it was on 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And she uploaded her score and got out of 0. And there was articles written of like the bold critic who dared go. And I was like, y'all are so stupid. Get out of here. Like, and again, I love those things. I want to be that voice. And my big passion started with a movie we talked about earlier was Batman v Superman. That was my first blockbuster. I did a couple indie movies right before it and just trying to cut my teeth. And I had gotten the Batman v Superman gig. I walked out of that high. I was so happy. Yes. And then I felt like, that one Katy Perry meme of like, you thought you were fine, but you're not really fine. My whole
Yeah.
world went black and white because everyone behind me was like, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. I'm like, what do you mean? Like and that's when I was like, oh, I got to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I for a long time was like, I hate fun, or I'm trying to be a contrarian. I want to do the different opinion. I'm like, no, but we have these different opinions.
Yeah.
You talked about it with reactions and stuff. We kind of fall into the same thing. And I really gained that passion there of like, I want to be that different voice, even if I align with what everyone else's feelings.
Yeah.
I still want to give a different perspective. And I think, it's like wrestling, it's like any art. Yes, we all do the same thing, but your perspective, your vibe is what makes it different.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I don't know, I like talking trash. And then interviewing. Like, dude, I've interviewed Johnny Knoxville. Like my interview lineup has been insane. Like
We got a connection there. I made his gear for WrestleMania when he wrestled
I
same thing.
Yes, and one of my first questions, it was actually during that season too, because I talked to him about Sammy, and he did of course in character cut a beautiful promo real quick on Sammy. But
Yeah.
I asked him if he knew Jackass was gay, and I was like, there's like a gay appeal, and he was like, bro, yes. He goes, I know. He was like, it's dudes naked, and I just was like, thank you, because growing up, I was just like, this was the only way I saw nudity. Like, you know what I mean? We were all kids trying to see something, and I'm like, bro, Jackass saved me. He was like, I'm happy. Like that makes me happy to hear.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, Johnny's awesome. Like from there, I was just like, cool. And I fell in love with interviews. I've interviewed Lawrence Brothers, Denai Guerrera from Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I love interviewing. That's my new passion. I really fell in love with just
Yeah.
talking with people.
Yeah, no, I know. I do. I love just having conversations. Like this whole podcast is just built on the premise that me and Chris, my usual co-host, like we've kind of our lives kind of grew apart. We just went in different directions, but this is just a way for us to make sure we're checking in on each other and always making sure we're all doing good. So no matter once a week, we always have a conversation just to see how each other's life's going. But over the years, I've just come to realize I just like having conversations. Like I'm one that guy that if we're on a long road trip, there's a good chance we'll spend a good bulk of that time with the radio off, just having conversations about life, anything, any and every any and every subject. Like I'm open to because I never take anything personally. So I'm like, hey, let's just say how you really feel. We'll have a conversation about it. And I did no ill will, nothing held against anyone. It's just we're just talking. It's how you learn about people. It's how you learn that like there are other perspectives out there other than your own. And you tend to realize that these other people that you love and the people that you get along with, even though they have the different perspective than you, like you still love them, you still get along with them. So clearly you don't have to always agree on everything in order to get along, And I think that's one of the issues nowadays is everybody feels like if you don't agree with me, then we can't be friends. Oh
Yeah. Well, I do feel that way sometimes though. I don't want to talk to more people. Like I love my professional work of like, hi, talk to you, interview, great. I don't want to have to text somebody every day. I have a small child.
yeah, but I mean, imagine talking to someone that see, like, so there's I want to do a second podcast where I'm just interviewing people I find interesting, and because I feel like I'm always like I'm just eternally curious. So like I want to talk to a lawyer just to see what goes into being a lawyer. I want to talk to a landscaper just to see like how does he get up every day and do what he does. I feel like some people get so entrapped with the idea that unless someone has some kind of like social clout, they're not worth talking to.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's so much interesting people out there. Like I have conversations when I'm at work. I talk to a lot of the backstage guys, and they always have all these crazy stories. We got one guy who, shoots wrestling and HBO Sports. Like, everybody's got all these crazy backgrounds. I'm like, man,
you have my cousin now backstage with you.
I don't know. We were just in there like when we were in. I forget where we were, but we were in the same room. Like he was cutting hair and we were doing all the gear stuff. And, there's some washing machines next to us and stuff like that. But yeah, like if you talk to a barber, like, yeah, I'm a barber, but I also, we just came back from Germany, Oh,
no, it's interesting. And like you said, you don't need the clout. You don't need all that. And again, I do love talking to people. One of my favorite things is I love asking people what scary movies they love. One of
Yeah.
my first interviews I always do a scary movie. People's like, what did they like growing up? Because it shows either they hate the genre or they love something, or I think that's a good way. I love those questions that get people to like the icebreaker questions.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Ooh, good one.
Dude, when he makes the shadow puppet of the T-Rex, the group, awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
well, mine's Jaws. It changed my life. Like I saw Jaws and I don't know if something about it. I was like scared, but also like, how do they make the shark? You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
was one of those things I was so like, it was the first time I saw a movie and I was just like, oh, I know it's fake, but now I want to know how they made it. Why does it do that? Like all those stuff. And then, from there it was stuff like Scream. I'm a 90s kid. Scream
Yeah.
changed my life. Like
Have you gone to Martha's Vineyard?
I have not gone to Martha's Vineyard. That is one of my like goals of to check that off.
I went there this year for the first time actually, and that might be my favorite place in Massachusetts now.
Really?
Yeah, and it's so the thing is, it's actually pretty easy to get to. If you fly into Boston, whatever, you just take the drive down into the Cape, and you go hop on a ferry. It's like if you go just by yourself, it's like $20 a person. You know,
Wow.
or to get dropped off in Oak Bluffs. And I kid you not, I got there, it was like an episode of Dawson's Creek. Like it was a television, like kids on the beach playing volleyball with each other, like high school kids, they all jump the railing and go get in their cars and drive off. Like it was so storybook. I was like, man, like I need to come back here at least once a year just because I felt like I was in a whole other world. It's kind of like a New England version of Key West.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I
Key
mean,
West is, I will say, it feels like Martha Vineyard people might be nicer than the Key West people.
yeah. Well, I remember going to this one bar in Key West, and it was a nude bar,
Oh,
and it was on the third floor somewhere. It was a nude bar, but everybody there was at least 58 and older.
yeah, those places are never filled with like the ones you want there. Like it's always like, oh, thank you. I'm glad you're having fun. I have a wrestler friend who always goes to nude beaches with his partner, and I'm always just like, first off, where do you find it? And dude, why? Like,
Dude, I remember sitting there having a drink, and some dude just came up to me, slinging it, and was like, "Hey, man, I got pizza over here. If you want some." I'm like, "How you gonna offer me pizza with your shit out? Come on, bro."
yeah. It's the equivalent of I never understand a strip club with food. I don't know if I want to eat there. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't want chicken wings and then touch the dollies. Like it just doesn't seem like this worlds don't mix together.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, that's the latest episode of Sarat and Chris's Movie Therapy Podcast. Once again, it is your boy Sarat, aka Makazi. EJ, why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me. I want to sound so cocky. Just Google me, EJ Marino. But yeah, I mean, Flickering Myth is my YouTube channel. EJ Marino is my other YouTube channel. If you want more TV stuff, be at flickeringmyth.com, Flickering Myth on YouTube. I do reviews. I'm seeing Beetlejuice tonight, so I'll have a Beetlejuice review tomorrow morning, kind of stuff. So always doing reviews, always booked and busy talking about movies.
If you could review a movie from the past, like before you were born, like what movie would you have wanted to be alive around to see in theaters and review?
I would almost want to say I'll do one right after I was born. Showgirls. I would have helped save that movie's representation. I think the movie's great, and I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. And I would have loved to have been there and been like, no,
Yeah.
no, leave Kyle MacLachlan alone, leave Gina Gershon alone. They're trying. Elizabeth Berkley, she's there, but still, you know what I mean? I would have loved to have been like that reception. I love movies that are controversial, that we don't have a Showgirls anymore. There's not a movie coming out that people are like, oh, or just shocked or just I kind of universally hate, or what I mean? We don't have that kind of stuff anymore. So I would have loved to just been there for that kind of conversation of like, oh,
Oh,
I
dude.
would have got it then.
Listen, I was around when that was out, and like when you would go to the theater, they'd have guards. Like, you can't go into this one. It's
See,
NC-17.
I
No.
want that. We don't have that. Oh, I want security at a movie.
Yeah.
I want to feel risky going to see something. Oh, that's awesome.
Have you ever had an experience at a theater where you were like, man, like I kind of missed out on something? Like, okay, so for instance, I went to this movie theater in Boston, and I was taking my brother-in-law at the time to go see Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. And while we were going, we're walking and they're like, hey, do you guys want to come see this movie over here? It's the sneak peek, it's not out yet. It was basically like a focus group kind of thing. And I was like, oh man, if Joshua wasn't with me, I would have went. So we ended up going to see Pirates of the Caribbean. And then like 2 weeks later, I found out it was for The Town. And I was like, shit, because The Town is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to see like a focus group kind of early cut of that movie.
There was at the Enzian in Orlando, Maitland kind of area, there was this 5-hour cut of that movie, Nymphomaniac. I really wish I would have sat with a bunch of grown men and seen that pretty depraved movie all together, locked together for 5 hours. That would have been like, again, like again, I want to feel risky. That would have felt risky.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. Check us out on Instagram. I got a new Instagram page for the SC Movie Therapy. Check us out on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're already checking us out. But tell your friends. Tell them to come subscribe. We're back every week with new episodes. So yeah, please come join us again. And EJ, thank you again for being here. I appreciate it, homie. We will get together soon and go watch a movie.
Please.
All right. Later.
I'm a warrior.